Hello everyone, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program Career Mode. In this episode, I'm going to attempt to try to squeeze 10 different streams all in a tiny little video. This ought to be good. Well, in the first stream, we were building, or we had finished refitting the Moonrunner. The new part for the Moonrunner was going to allow it to be able to bring back the capsules from rescued Kerbals in a type of salvage operation. First up was the new Arc Raven SSTO fuel transport to finish refueling the Arc Raven for its mission to Minmus. Next, the crew would be transported to the Moonrunner. The crew would consist of Captain Mark, First Officer Bane, Flurp, and Dark Athena. The reason why we needed two pilots essentially was so that we could remotely control a small tow vehicle that would allow us to capture and salvage the wreckages that we were saving the Kerbals from. At the time, we needed a lot of money. I know 700,000 Kerbal bucks sounds like a lot, but when you're planning on building a mission to Eve, especially the way we are playing, which is more of a realistic version, building a large enough spacecraft to go to Eve and back costs money. The Jolly Roger that was sent to Duna not too long ago was around 1,500,000 Kerbal bucks, give or take. That included all of the launches, the construction, and what looks good on paper normally doesn't add up when you actually apply it in real world, or in this case, game world. So there was many times where we would build a module, spend the money to put it up there, only to find out that it didn't fit or it didn't work, and then have to bring it back in order to try to save as much money as we possibly could. With the lessons learned from the Duna mission, the Eve mission should be a little cheaper, but as we all know, what looks good on paper normally doesn't work out in the physical world. I'm sure because of trial and error, the cost of building a ship capable of going to Eve and conducting science will be quite expensive. So in this mission for the Moonrunner, we maximized all of our mission capabilities. I think it goes up to about 5, and all of them were pretty much rescue missions over on Minmus. In the next stream, it was pretty much just completing all of the missions that were at Minmus. There was at least 2 of them where we had to bring back salvage, or the capsules that the Kerbals were being rescued from, and there was a couple of missions that were on the planet, or excuse me, on the moon itself. Thankfully, the Kraken didn't attack, and it was pretty much smooth sailing. In the next stream, because the USS Moonrunner had these new updated equipment parts on it, we didn't know exactly how it was going to react during re-entry. The Moonrunner itself has returned back to Kerbin just fine in the past, but like I said before, because of its upgrade, I wasn't too sure of how it would react, if it would react the same way at all, or if it would flip out of control. Thankfully, the way I saw it, it seemed to perform a lot better. I'm not sure if that's because it was longer, or if maybe perhaps there was more weight at the front. We don't know. Now it was time to bring up a SSTO in order to retrieve not only the crew, but also the salvage in order to complete the missions. During the stream, a lot of people were asking me if I was going to update the spacecrafts, or interplanetary or even inter-system spacecrafts, with the new Nerve engine that was unlocked ever since we came back from Duna with all that science. One thing about science that even 10% can't help is that it is a lot of science when you come back after scouring the entire surface of a certain planet, in this case Duna, and come back with it. It was almost 1,700 science that we collected from the Duna mission, and it opened up a good 7, 8, maybe 9, 10 nodes, science nodes, which unfortunately means that we had some sort of huge technological leap in the tech tree, which is not what I was aiming for. If I want to unlock all the technologies, I would have played in sandbox mode. Half of the fun of playing in career mode is having limited technology, so that you have to think outside the box and come up with these radical designs in order to do something that would typically be covered by a certain part later in the tech tree. It brings a sense of accomplishment when you're able to do these things and make it work, even without the advanced technology. So when we unlocked the Nerve engine, it felt like more of a defeat than a win. So in order to make this better, that's when I went from 10% science to 1%, which gives us a reason to use the mobile science laboratories now. Because if we had used the mobile science laboratories at Duna, we would have come back with 3,000-4,000 science easy, and that would have really sucked, because that would have unlocked so much of the tech tree that I might as well stop playing. I didn't want that. So now with the 1% science, it gives us a reason to use those mobile science labs in order to squeeze out more science from that 1%. But on top top of that, with the NERV engine, as I was saying before, in order to make it more realistic and give it actual teeth when it comes to designing with the NERV engine, instead of being able to slap it on anything and call it a day, we have a new rule to where the NERV engine is actually very radioactive. And indeed, its inspired real counterpart was very radioactive and would have been placed far away from the crew with shielding. So when if we, and we probably will, attempt to build an interstellar spacecraft, interplanetary spacecraft with a nuclear engine, it's going to look a lot different than the ships that we've been building so far. The engine's going to be far away, it's going to have some sort of shielding plate, and the crew cabins are going to be far away from the engine. After explaining that to the audience, we brought up the delivery truck, loaded everything on it, and headed back to Kerbin, only to run into another Kraken event. Now, I have already talked with everybody, and we have agreed that if a part acts up, which the landing gears in KSP are notorious to be Kraken bait, then we'll just revert flight from now on. Now, if it's human error, my error, or whatever the case may be, then yeah, we'll suck up to it and we'll go on from there. But if a part just spontaneously explodes when there's no reason why it should explode at all, then yeah, that's considered Kraken, and we'll revert the flight on that and try to figure it out. In the next stream, off screen, I launched a nuclear satellite that had a claw attached to it. Over at the moon, there's a bunch of wreckages that are surrounding the moon from rescue missions. I say wreckages, but all they are is just the capsules that you find the Kerbals inside of. But still, it looked kind of bad. Now, I realize that in game you can go and just delete them, but like I said, we try to play this game a little bit in a type of realistic way. If there's debris in space, you either clean it up or they're just gonna stay there. Plus, when it came to lore, I would guess that this would kind of be the way that they would test out the nuclear engine. Now, the rules that we're making for the nuclear engine means that it's producing a lot of radioactivity and radiation, which interferes with electronics. And I'm gonna say that story-wise, during the mission of this satellite to go out there and clean up the orbit around Moon, that it was having a bunch of trouble because of the radiation coming from the rocket, which is one of the things that just hammered home the fact that when they build an actual spacecraft to go to other planets using this nuclear engine, that they will need some sort of protection against this radiation. Now, this wasn't a mission. There was nothing, we weren't getting paid for this. It was relatively cheap to get it up there because we used an SSTO, a newer one that's still experimental, of course, but it was worth the money in order to clean everything up. We wanted to clean up not only the cockpit that the Kerbals were rescued from, but we also wanted to clean up the old and decaying emergency satellites that had been placed around the moon a long time ago in order to be able to remote control vehicles on the opposite side of the moon or on the dark side of the moon. I wanted to place a more stable, upgraded network of satellites around the moon, but before I could do that, I had to get rid of the old ones. In the next stream, we had finished up getting rid of all the old emergency satellites that were around the moon. This vessel was not designed to come back to Kerbin because lore-wise, I didn't really want to re-enter a nuclear engine back into Kerbin and spread it all over the atmosphere. That would not have been great, technically speaking. So instead, we opted to crash it on the moon. Although we wanted to land on the moon, we didn't have enough Delta V. This tiny little satellite actually did a lot of work for one tank of gas, which is very impressive. But of course, lore-wise, they wouldn't ever build something like this ever again because they were just having so many mechanical failures and electronic problems because of the radiation getting pumped out from that engine. If ever they're going to do something like this again, they would need some sort of shielding of some kind. However, everybody was like, there's no way you'd be able to land this thing on the moon with that kind of Delta V left over, and I quite took that as a challenge. Now, technically, no, I didn't land on the moon, but I managed to land a part of it on the moon, which in my book is a miracle, if not a whim. Anyway, we went back to the Kerbal space plane hangar, and started designing the new and improved satellites that would actually be in a very stable orbit around the moon. They couldn't be big and Kerbin-like satellites. They would have to be small because they're just pretty much just for the moon. They're not meant to do anything special. There'd be 3 of them, and they'd be in a triangle type of position, and they would orbit around the moon at the exact same speed and the exact same altitude, so that they would pretty much stay in that formation for many years without having to worry about adjusting anything. In the next stream, I told you guys it's going to be a lot of streams all in one video. What do you expect? We would finish building the moon satellites, but the way I was going to put it up there would be in a stack of 3. We'd put it on the back of the cargo SSTO, put it up in orbit, and then it would have its own engine that would take it up to the moon. Once at the moon, it needed enough fuel to get every single satellite in its appropriate orbit, which took a minute. Definitely took a minute. Sadly, my fat thumb would hit, I believe it was the Z key, that made the primary booster run into one of the satellites. I was hot. I was pissed. I admit it. I was pissed at myself. But you know, this is not a Kraken event. This is a human error. So we're gonna let it go. And maybe in the future we'll go back and repair the satellite. But for now, the satellite still works. It has redundant power systems, so it still works. But yeah, finally we got a nice modern triangulated satellite system orbiting the moon. Now, in this stream, this would be the stream that would be the most deadliest stream that we've had in a very, very long time. It was supposed to be a routine mission. We were going to collect the USS Jolly Roger part from orbit because of the fact that now that we put these new laws and new rules on the nuclear engine, the part that was in orbit was no longer to code, if you want to put it that way. The part was no longer regulation in accordance with any regulation. Anyway, yeah, I still get a little choked up about this. This sucks. Routine maintenance. Go up there, grab it, bring it back. Very simple, and that's the way it should have been. However, there was something that I unfortunately overlooked. Nuclear engines are extremely heavy, and so when I sent Jebediah and Brian up there to do a routine, or what was supposed to be a routine part reclamation mission, and it ended up being a disaster. Everything was going according to plan. The launch was good, the docking was good, the ship was headed back to Kerbal. It seemed like it was gliding in well, but that's when everything lost control. Upon further study of what happened, the nuclear engines were just so dang heavy that it brought the center of mass way back behind the center of lift for the craft. The craft itself had enough fuel to where we believe that if we had just transferred all the fuel to the front of the craft, everything would have been fine. But at the time, I didn't think about that. And well, I'll just let the stream speak for itself. You have to wait till it's still. All right. Come on, get off of me. Get off of me. Easy does it. Easy does it. Easy does it. No. That's fine. Easy does it. Coming in for a landing. That's a lot of damn trees. Oh, it looks like grass. I think we're okay. Easy does it.
200.
Nope, those are trees. Oh, gosh.
100, 9, 80, 70,
Sacred.
60,
Sacred.
60,
Sacred.
50, 40,
Sacred.
30,
Sacred.
20, 10.
Sacred.
Needless to say, I had a very, very, very long moment of silence to where I could just do nothing but sit there and look at the screen with my mouth open. It was frustrating, extremely frustrating, because I had made all the mistakes that led to the death of a legend, and Brian as well. So there was no F9ing this. There was no going back. This was not a Kraken. There was this right here was human error, and even in some cases a design error for not having some sort of escape system on the actual SSTO, which we would remedy in the next stream. So finally, in this stream, I would build a monument for Jebediah Kerman, as well as add Brian Kerman to the honored heroes. And during the entire stream, we would test out new escape systems for that particular SSTO. Because honestly, we've been meaning to put something like that on that particular SSTO for a long time now, and we've just been putting it off because the SSTO itself is very, very safe. The only reason why it failed so miserably was because several things happened all at the same time. One was that the cargo was way off whack, and two was the fact that we landed in a place that was probably the worst area ever to land. There was virtually no clearing, especially for something that big, and it was bound to run into something. And yes, I know I can turn off collisions for all the cacti and trees that are out there, but then we wouldn't have made the monument to commemorate the passing of a legend, and we wouldn't have to live with that consequence of not having some sort of way of being able to save the Kerbals on board that spacecraft, forcing us to go back to the design and rebuild the design to have some sort of emergency escape capsule of some kind. So yeah, I'm not going to be turning that feature off anytime soon. It makes the ground way more dangerous the way it's actually supposed to be. During testing, however, because I wanted to keep the ship pretty much the same way, because in Kerbal Space Program, if you change a tiny little thing on a spacecraft, suddenly everything changes. It doesn't work like it's supposed to anymore. Everything changes. So in order to make this escape pod system work, you would have to be very, very delicate and just accept that there was going to be some weird stuff going on, but at least the Kerbals were safe. So if all else fails and we know that we're going to bite the dust, we can now engage the emergency escape system. This will of course obliterate the SSTO, but it has a 99.995% chance of saving the Kerbals, and that's a win in my book. Now of course I could go on with the next stream after this one, but it was pretty much just a show and tell. We just kind of talked about the different crafts and how it's been so long ago and now we're here and that kind of thing. And a lot of people were asking me to do some sort of video where it was some sort of montage to show the evolution of certain crafts from the very beginning to now. And I think I just might do that. I'm not sure if I want to do it in one big video or if I want to make some sort of separate video for every single craft, which would be a little too much. So maybe it will be one big video. I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being part of this channel. If you liked what you saw, please leave a like. And also we have a membership program. If you want to become a member, you get cool emojis and badges and stuff next to your name. Pretty cool. Check it out. But I will see you in the next stream or video. Bye for now. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.